This is Game Set Match Kentucky, episode 42, recorded on Monday, October 28th, 2024, entitled Make Tennis Great Again. Hey everybody, it's time for another episode of Game Set Match Kentucky, where we talk about all things related to the Central Kentucky Tennis Series and probably a whole lot more that you never asked for. We are recording on Monday, October 28th. I'm Chris Godby, the chairman and one of the founders of the CKTS, where the lines are good and sandbagging is for golf. I'm in the brand new, long-awaited Studio A at CKTS headquarters in Russell Springs. I'm not going to show the whole thing yet because it's not fully decorated. So all you get to see is this little rectangle around me right now.
Yeah, what we're seeing looks great.
Well, thanks. Yeah, got the little light up Kentucky back there.
And I'm in, Studio D?
Yes. Chad, this would be, you're in Studio D, right?
Yeah. We're running through the alphabet here.
Okay, so I'm normally, for the last year or more, I have been broadcasting from my work office, and Chad was broadcasting from his home, and now he's at his work office, and I'm at home. So round and round she goes, I guess.
That's right.
So on this episode of Game Set Match Kentucky, I don't want to say everything that we're doing yet because we may not have time to get to everything that we have planned. The title of today's episode was Make Tennis Great Again. Now, we know it's already great, but we're going to talk to somebody today about making it greater, perhaps, and spreading it to more people.
Yeah, no politics here. We're not making any political statements.
We didn't make any political statements. We didn't make any political endorsements. Not yet, anyway, and we probably won't. But anyway, we've got a special guest today. It's Jason Miller from USTA, Kentucky, and we have a few more things planned if we have time for that. But before we bring out Jason, I'm going to tell you about Vision Cabinet Source. They're a kitchen and bath cabinet supplier that ships all over the United States and has for over a decade. Whether you're building a new home or renovating a room in your home, Vision Cabinet Source can provide you with classic cabinet styles that are well built and affordable. You'll also find that they go above and beyond to provide service that exceeds expectations, from answering your initial questions to ensuring that you're happy with the final delivered product. Every Vision cabinet is built upon their promise to deliver well-constructed cabinets made from solid hardwoods, classic versatile designs that complement your style, affordable options that fit your budget, on-time delivery with shipment within 24 hours, accessible personal service you can count on. They have many different painted and stained lines of cabinets that are stocked at their warehouse in Campbellsville, Kentucky. In making these beautiful cabinets, they have a 17-step finishing process that assures top quality craftsmanship. Go online and look at their styles and designs for yourself, and you'll agree that they do great work at an affordable price. Check them out on their website at visioncabinet.com, or you can call them at 270-465-3222. Tell them you heard about Vision Cabinet Source right here on Game Set Match Kentucky. So let's bring out our guest.
Drum roll.
Now, how about this? Let's do this arrangement. That's a little bit better. If you're a part of a community tennis association like us, then you're probably acquainted with our next guest. Jason Miller is the executive director at USTA Kentucky and has been in that role for 8.5 years. He's with us today to discuss some issues that tennis facilities are facing, as well as some long-term goals of the USTA. Dr. Jason Miller, welcome to Game Set Match Kentucky.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm a huge podcast fan. I have to admit, this is the first one I've actually been on.
Wow!
So really looking forward to this, and am a big fan of what you guys do.
Podcast.
Well, you may end up being a regular. You never know.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Jason,
might end up being the co-host because I was initially a guest too, and you see where.
That's how you fall into the trap. You're asked to be a guest, and the next thing you know, you've got a job, so a job that doesn't pay anything. So Within the last month, USTA Kentucky has made declarations about the state of public tennis courts in Kentucky and how they are losing ground to disrepair. And worse than that, they're losing ground to the sport which shall not be named. When did this situation, Jason, by your estimation, become the most serious?
That's a great question, and something that clearly we've been monitoring over the last several years. You in my role, we often sit back and observe what's happening both here in Kentucky, but also what's happening in the southern section, what's happening across the country. And just in the last few months, it's become very apparent that more needs to be done at our level, at the state level, and more importantly, perhaps at the local level, to advocate for our courts. So, excuse me. So it just seems as though, it's time for us to speak up and try to rally a group of individuals to come together. And I like the word used when talking to you yesterday, Chris. I mean, kind of a movement, if you will, to get better advocacy for our courts and our sport here in Kentucky.
What are some things that we can do in the short term just to get started?
I think that there's a couple of things that are just no-brainers, and that is when courts are in disrepair, or you feel as though courts are being taken over by whatever sport, whatever activity. Let us know. Let us know. Hey, we've got a situation in this community where we feel as though courts are going to be repurposed, or hey, we really feel like we could get this high school tennis program going again, or really take it to the next level if these courts could be resurfaced. We do that type of work every day. Maddie Henning on our staff does a remarkable job of engaging with people at the local level and connecting them to resources both here at Southern, at National, on how we can best do that. So that's an easy one. If you know of a facility that needs some work, just speak up and approach us. And even if you go to your local community tennis association and then they, report that to us or communicate that to us, that's a huge, huge first step.
Well, I already have a couple in mind.
One question I had, Jason, is when we have courts that are starting to show their age, I think what has happened in some cases is courts start to show their age, and tennis players will go to where the courts are newer,
yep,
or they'll just deal with it, and as those, or they'll just I guess going back to they'll go to a different location. When they do that, then you have communities that say nobody's playing tennis here. They obviously don't need this facility anymore, and we've got this group over here who is looking for it. Am I accurate in saying that as courts age and tennis players seek other options, that leaves a situation where a municipality, mayor, fiscal court, or whatever says, well, they're not playing tennis there, so they don't need those courts anymore?
I think you're spot on. And, part of the luxury we've had as tennis players over the last several decades has been there are ample places for us to play for the most part. We have everything from high school facilities we access, free park facilities, public facilities that maybe you pay a small fee to go play at, all the way up to, commercial tennis clubs to private country clubs where we can access tennis. Your point about courts being labeled as unused, or there's not a need for tennis or not a demand for tennis, let's say. That's an example we give all the time. And I think you're spot on with that. There's a big difference between unused or unusable and unused. And oftentimes courts have gotten so badly into disrepair they're unusable. You sprain your ankle or break your ankle if you play on them. But then to your point, if another group comes in, wanting to use them for a different sport or different activity, they often get, presented as unused. And that's a big thing that we see all too often right now. I mean, it's a passionate group that's going and saying we need these courts for another use, and it's not always accurate. Another example we see, Chad, is where you're there in the morning and they're not used, but guess what? 30 high school students come out at 4:00 and use those courts. And one of the things that got me, I'm always passionate about this issue, but even more passionate is I can't even remember exactly where I saw this. It was on one of the tennis specific social media groups here in Kentucky. And it was a facility, I believe, in Barberville that they are repurposing into pickleball in this case. And the person who was making the plea for help said, there doesn't seem as though there was even any conversation here, but our independent high school uses these courts. So what is going to happen to that team when these courts are repurposed? And I don't know how that was resolved. I don't know even the background of that, but that was one of the things that I read impacting those high school kids that made us decide that we need to do more at the Kentucky level, at the local level, to get more people involved in advocating for courts.
So if we get more people advocating for courts, we're going to have more places to play, better places to play. But then we also need more players. During the pandemic, recreational tennis got a definite boost. We saw it on the CKTS tour. We had bigger numbers at our tournaments in 2020 and 21. And the numbers of people participating in tennis in America, recreational tennis, is growing. It's not growing at the rate it was just a few years ago. So that growth has slowed somewhat. What's the USTA's position on this? What do they have plans in place to try to help grow those numbers?
I think that really gets into Chad's question too, in that there being a perception that tennis isn't growing or courts aren't being utilized, things like that. You're spot on, Chris. During the pandemic, and this is a broad national number now. This isn't a Kentucky number, but from 2019 to 2020, tennis grew tremendously. It went from approximately 19 million in 2019 nationally playing tennis to this in 2023 up over 23 million. So not only has it continued to grow year over year, we have maintained the vast majority of those players who came to tennis due to COVID. So tennis is growing at a pretty impressive clip. And even so much that the USTA at the national level has created a goal of 35 million players in the U.S. By the year 2035. So it's a very, very aggressive goal, but I feel like is grounded in good thought that we are having all these years of success.
And so that's about that will be, if that goal is met, that's about 10% of the American population compared to about 7.5% that are playing recreational tennis now at least once a year, right?
That's right. And I think part of the optimism there is, and I interestingly just had a conversation with Chad about this a few weeks ago, but when you think, and I think all three of us can think just in our personal circles of tennis and, who we play tennis with and who we interact with, all of the lapsed players. So it's not even as much about creating brand new players, which we all want to do, and we all have a passion to do. Sometimes it's just nudging, that friend down the street or the friend you used to play with, maybe got, had an injury, maybe changed levels, but just nudging that person who's lapsed, maybe played on a high school team and then put the racket away, but was a really good high school player. Sometimes it's even bringing individuals like that back to the sport. And I think there's going to be a lot more emphasis on that over the next few years as well.
We've been very, very fortunate in Bowling Green. from the high school level to our 2 parks departments, have put tennis as somewhat of an emphasis, and we've got as many courts as just about anybody in the state right now outdoor. And I know Owensboro has expanded theirs. Is this a statewide issue? I know that Louisville has really been hit hard by this. Lexington too, just because I know with some of the state championships, how many courts, we're using courts in Georgetown, or we're using courts in Southern Indiana. So I know the 2 biggest cities in the state have been hit hard by this. Are the smaller communities dealing with the same issue?
I think the answer to that is yes and no. I think that, and I don't have great data on this. I wish I had better data on it, but I think you're spot on that the larger markets seem to have been hit the hardest on a percentage basis. We've lost over 15 indoor tennis courts in Louisville over the last 2 years. So that's been a very, very concerning trend in Louisville. In Lexington, one of the premier known park facilities in the state, is dropping from 13 courts to 8. So they're getting a resurface in that process. So that's outstanding, right? But there's a pretty significant net loss of courts. When I'm talking to our primary court builder here in Kentucky, he tells me he is as busy as he's ever been. He's not usually this busy this late in the year. So there are absolutely some shining stars out there, particularly at schools, particularly at parks, that are absolutely building tennis courts. We need to highlight those facilities better. One of the things that really got me going on this was listening to one of your episodes where you all unveiled the CKTS season, and it seemed like almost every other tournament perhaps had moved in the calendar or was playing at a new facility because there were so many enhancements to facilities around your neck of the woods. And I thought that was inspiring. I thought that was a really, really, great thing. And Chad, to your point, yeah, Bowling Green and Owensboro are just absolutely, booming with tennis courts and run great events. And, to circle back to Chris's point, that gets back to local advocacy. Not every community has a Martina Fee. Not every community has a Noel Clayton. Not every community has a Jane Gamble in Bowling Green, in Paducah. So we have to get more people like that who are willing to knock on a door with a big idea and say, hey, we need these courts. Don't touch these courts. We'll figure out a solution, and not at the detriment of pickleball or basketball or any of the other sports or activities that often infringe upon tennis. We can have it. We can have both. We can have it all. Let's just do this in a smart fashion.
These activities can coexist. Yes.
Yeah. Is that advocacy, in your opinion, and I guess it could be multiple, but I mean, obviously you've got some that are owned by school systems, and then you have some that are owned by government entities, and then you've got the private. And I guess when we talk about advocacy, are we probably looking at the public side of things? Because it seems like as a taxpayer, you have a little bit more of a leg to stand on than at a private facility.
I think that's where we'll have the most success. And none of this is easy. And I don't want to paint any of this out to be easy. It's definitely a skill set and a network that people have to be a part of, and have to have the skill set to knock on these doors and then ultimately get in the door, with some of these local government, school boards, decision makers within school districts, that kind of thing. But I think that's where we will have the most success. Another key there is, the three of us, we're all tennis people. We're tennis guys. But the skill set that we bring to the table may not be one of a lot of history, with local state or local government or county government. So it's finding that person in the communities that has that skill set or has that experience to be able to navigate that effectively. And from my experience, you're told no sometimes, or there's some red tape you have to get through, some persistence that has to be there for this to be successful. So it's not always going to be our top, local tennis volunteer or our CTA president. Sometimes it's going to be someone on the periphery who has a better skill set to engage with some of these groups. On the private side of things, I think that's a really, really good question, because I'm not a business person per se. I've not run a business. We're a nonprofit. I've not run a for-profit business, but to me, it seems like there's some opportunity there with all of this positivity and great news with tennis. To me, even if it is a racket sports complex of some sort, it seems like there's a lot of opportunity, even in the private sector, to invest in tennis. And I think that that comes from a different level of advocacy or focus, but I think that is there as well.
There's a lot more I'm sure we could talk about. We could go on, but I know our time is limited with you. And is there anything else you want to mention while we have you here? Because we'll definitely have you back soon. But
That'd be great.
while you've got the floor, if there's anything you want to.
Well, you're right. There's so much to cover here, and I just do really, really appreciate the opportunity to be on. And I would love to come back anytime. I love to talk tennis and all aspects of the sport. I think a really key here is, for several years we've talked about the need for greater advocacy or advocates. We actually have an avenue now to plug interested people in. And it really was just a timing thing. When one of our staff sent, the email that you responded to, Chris, about trying to identify people locally to better advocate with city council or school boards or that kind of thing. At the same time, we were given the opportunity to be a part of a program called Advocacy Specialists that National is putting on. So we are actually seeking formal advocacy specialists around the state, and these people would be a part of a cohort that would then go through a series of trainings with National, with section folks, with us, and actually be armed with resources to go in and start having these conversations. And each specialist will be tasked with, making 2 or 3 connections in their local community to go in and have meetings and connect and try to see what we can do. So we actually have a formal outlet now. All you would need to do there is to call our office, and maybe you guys can provide that to your listeners, or email me, and that's all that would need to happen. Call me, and we can get them plugged in.
Let me ask one more question.
Sure.
Because I think it's kind of the elephant in the room. But talk about the difficulty and the trickiness of, you mentioned if you were a private business and you wanted to run a racket facility, the trickiness of a blended court. Talk about how that is not necessarily a solution to make all parties happy.
Well, there's a lot there, and it is, I guess, probably a bit of a loaded question, but luckily, we are starting to see less of that. And I do understand, I do understand the interest. I do understand why other sports, particularly pickleball, end up on tennis courts, with it being a racket sport. I get it. There's some definite similarities there. But that is not a good answer, primarily because, to me, once those courts are lined for pickleball, unless that court has someone like you running that facility who can program that facility effectively, i.e. 8 to 10 is our pickleball time, 10 to noon is tennis, and really do that effectively, the court suddenly becomes, in my mind, labeled as the pickleball court. Or you set up almost a confrontation at times on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock when a group of tennis people want to come out and play and a group of pickleball people want to play. So it really creates kind of some unneeded animosity, between the two groups. And it's just far better to plan creatively, plan effectively, and have both sports. I will say one challenge to that has been a lot of park facilities are taking the approach of, we have 6 tennis courts. We're going to go to 4 tennis courts, resurface those 4 tennis courts, add 6 or 8 pickleball courts, and maybe futsal, maybe basketball, whatever other activity. But that really impacts middle school and high school tennis. And that's something that's
tournaments.
And tournaments. It's not intended. They don't think through that, I think, at that level. But that is a real impact to how many matches we can put out, strictly at a high school practice standpoint, a high school match standpoint. And all of a sudden, there's coaches trying to schedule matches the following season, and they've gone from 6 courts to 4 or 5 courts to 3, that kind of thing. And I get it, from an elected official standpoint or a parks department standpoint, you're trying to make, more taxpayers happy, and you're trying to appease more of your community. But it really does create some unneeded stress sometimes on our tennis program.
And that's why, even in a situation in a community like ours, you need to have the advocates ready to intervene when those discussions start to happen, or to make sure that parks departments or government officials understand the magnitude of some of the decisions that they might make. If you don't have those advocates ready to be in that conversation, it might be too late.
Absolutely. And we are starting to see some success stories of when we know in advance that, things are going to change, or it's being proposed to change. Exactly what you said, Chad. If you have somebody in the room or somebody saying, hold on, let's talk through this. The USTA has free facility planning services where we can look at this and have, all of this on this same, basic plot of land. Let's look into this. And we've been able to, navigate some of that. The worst is when we find out after the fact. And that's happened more times, than we like to admit, perhaps. And it's so the biggest thing is just communication and trying to really trying to empower a group of people locally to knock on those doors and be a part, as you said, be a part of those conversations.
It definitely sounds like we have a lot of work to do, and it's going to take all of us to pitch in.
And that's a great point. And it is. But I think we're here. When Chad was talking about playing some of our adult league championships, we were playing in the Lexington area, but we're also playing in Georgetown and Berea and these different areas. We don't want to do that. That's not something that we, set out to do. And even through, some negative feedback on that, which we fully appreciate and understand, we are seeing more people saying, hey, enough's enough. I want to be a part of the solution here. So that's, we don't want to be in that situation, but that is a positive that's coming out of it.
Once again, Jason Miller is the executive director at USTA Kentucky. It's been a pleasure to have you here with us today. I hope we can have you back very soon.
Well, thank you guys. And truly, thanks for everything you do to promote our sport across Kentucky. I listen to virtually every episode you guys put out, and I really enjoy it. And I really appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Well, thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Chad, this would be a good time for you to tell us about Family Medical Centers.
Family Medical Centers is a community center with more than 225 locations throughout South Central and a portion of North Central Kentucky in 33 counties. They've been providing health care to Kentuckians for over 17 years, providing complete primary care services. They also offer pediatrics, OBGYN, oral health services, school-based health centers, behavioral health services, mobile optometry services, substance use disorder treatment, a pediatric wellness program, a workplace wellness program, discount pharmacy program, outreach services, local scholarship opportunities, and much more. Family Medical Centers has been recognized as a national quality leader by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Check them out on their website at cumberlandfamilymedical.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/Family Medical Centers and on Instagram and Twitter at Cumberland FMC.
Okay, I want to go through the winners of the 2024 CKTS points race standings.
Okay.
But first, let's talk about where we're going to celebrate this, where and when we're going to celebrate this. So we are kind of rebranding our awards day. It's going to be at the typical time. It's going to be at the typical place it's been the last few years. It's just going to flow a little bit differently. So we have a name for the event too now. It's called Aces and Appetizers. CKTS Aces and Appetizers. Sunday, November 10th. All right. So if you have played a CKTS tournament this year, you don't have to be one of our award winners. If you've played one of our tournaments, join us that day in Bowling Green at the Buchanan Indoor Tennis Facility where Chad works, where he is right now. And they're playing right behind that wall in the back of his office right now. We're going to have some snacks in the lobby. No eating at the courts. We're going to have snacks in the lobby. We're going to use the Soki Lounge. Thank you, Soki. We are going to just have some snacks and drinks, and then indoors from 1 to 4 p.m., free indoor tennis on us. We've got 4 courts booked for this. And if you want to play tennis, you're more than welcome. You don't have to play tennis. If you're not going to play, you can just stop by and pick up your awards. So we're not having a formal sit-down ceremony where we read through all the winners and things like that this time. We are going to have the awards there, and you can come pick them up and get your picture made and go play. You can come by, have a snack, play some tennis, pick up your award, and leave. Anytime between 1 and 4. It's come and go. You can get there at 2:30. You can get there at 3:30. You could get there at 1 when we start. So 1 to 4, it's kind of almost like an open house in a way, but you can play tennis. It's just it's not organized. It's just pick up games. You just jump in and sub for somebody, or go play some doubles, whatever. So Chad, do you have anything to add about what we're going to do on November 10th?
No, I mean, we just want people to come out and celebrate the tour and free tennis. If we have a lot of people, we'll organize a drill court, but we'll have, some open play like we have, in the past. We've had the open courts, but then we've gone into, the awards ceremony. And there's 2 things there. Do you want to go play a lot of tennis and then go sit down in an award ceremony? Probably not. The other thing is, in the past,
everybody comes in all sweaty.
In the past,
they come in and sit in those metal chairs all sweaty and wait for their name to be called.
In the past, there's been CKTS members and non-members. If you've played in a tournament, you're a member, and we want you to come out and celebrate and enjoy the free open courts.
Yeah, and one more thing we're going to try to do, and with all the technical problems we had today trying to record this podcast, the things that you didn't see before we started taping, we're going to try to do the podcast there on November 10th at Aces and Appetizers. So we want to set up a table and bring the equipment and just have some people stop by and sit down and talk to us about the season and some of the fun they had and some of the toughest opponents that they played. And, they can brag about the awards they won, the tournaments they won, and just basically how much fun they had. And it's going to be a fun day. So we're going to try to do a little bit of everything that day.
It should be a lot of fun. We hope people come out and enjoy it. And, there's no you don't have to stay for a certain period of time. You come and go as you want. And, but we'll have some snacks and some free tennis.
That's right. So let's see who will be picking up awards that day. Are you ready?
I am.
All right, let's start with the point standings, and if you want to give us the winner and runner up, you'll start with men's open singles, and we'll go through them.
All right, men's open singles. Matthew McGrail was the winner, and Nolan Parsons was the runner-up.
Congratulations to them. In men's B singles, Jun Tomioka is the champion this year. I believe he's won that a few times. And Evan Brown is this year's runner-up.
In men's C singles, Larry Kohler was the winner, and Stephen Parsons was the runner-up.
Okay. Moving on to boys 18 and under singles. Coleman Greathouse is the champion this year, edging by 1 point over Gavin Morgan as runner-up.
And Coleman Greathouse was also the winner in boys 16 and under singles. Timothy Jones was the runner-up.
Okay. Then we have boys 14 and under singles. There's actually a tie for second place here. So the champion is Ace Osman. The tie at runner-up is Cooper Jackson and Tanner Reed with 6.5 points each.
In boys 12 and under singles, Aaron Chang was the winner, and Benjamin England was the runner-up.
2 Somerset boys, so hopefully we'll see them in Bowling Green on November 10th. Men's open doubles, we have a tie for the champion, so no runner-up there, but Bernard Howard and Matthew Smith are co-champions with 7 points each.
And maybe in a rarity in the doubles, they were not partners.
They were not.
A lot of times, if we see a tie like this, because people play together, but they did not play together, and but both finished with 7 points. In men's B doubles, as I was saying, Van Patterson was the winner, and his partner for most of those tournaments was Jun Tomioka.
They split up for the last 2 tournaments, and each of them missed 1. They both played 7 out of the 8 tournaments in that division, so kudos to them. Men's C doubles, we have father and son co-champions, James Roberts and Jamison Roberts, who dominated that division this year.
And we also had father-son in men's 40 doubles.
It's a family affair.
Don and Steve Humphreys were the co-champions in men's 40 doubles.
I thought those guys were brothers.
Yeah, that's right.
They even have T-shirts that say the Humphreys brothers. Boys 18 doubles. We have another tie for runner-up in this one, but Jake Roy is the champion with 15 points. Noah Bennett and Miles Mudd each have 8.
In women's open singles, we only have a champion because none of the runner-ups played in 2 events to qualify. So Hallie Lindsay is the champion with 6 points.
Okay, same situation in women's B singles where Karina Rosales is this year's champion.
In girls 18 and under singles, this time we had a 4-way tie for second. First place went to Peyton Venters, and second place was tied between Arden Deathridge, Paisley Harris, Peyton Lemley, and Addison McFall.
And I should point out that they're all getting all 4 of those girls are getting a runner-up award. So come to Bowling Green for CKTS Aces and Appetizers on November 10th and pick your award up, get a bite to eat, and hit some balls with us. All right, girls 16 and under singles, Claire Riney is this year's champion, and runner-up is Ellie Yan.
But Ellie Yan was the winner in girls 14 and under singles, and the runner-up was Reagan Lee.
Ellie played a lot of singles this year, 2 divisions oftentimes. In women's open doubles, Vemihan Kasi is the champion, and Olivia Bello is the runner-up.
Women's B doubles, Sarah Brown was the champion, and Karina Rosales was the runner-up.
In girls 18 and under doubles, Claire Riney is the champion with 19 points, followed by Lauren Bragg with 14.
In mixed open doubles, it was a tight one, the tightest we had. The male winner was a guy by the name of Chris Godby. The male runner-up.
So victorious.
The runner-up was Jarrett McFall by 1 point. And then on the female side, Trina Rickard was the champion, edging out Alexis Hales by 1/2 point.
Half a point. And I'm just glad to be playing. You know, the listeners may remember I had Achilles surgery in the summer of 2023 and didn't get to play that year at all. And I was just glad I got to play, period. I don't care what I won or didn't win. It's just good to play. I was on a hike today and hiked about 3 miles. And I was like, I couldn't have done this last year, you know, so it's just
you were able to play.
Don't take your health for granted.
Yeah, you're able to play 7 of the 8 events.
Yeah. The other, and I would have played 8. It was just a scheduling conflict. Well, enough about me. Mixed B doubles. The champions, the male and female champion, are actually engaged to be married. And I don't know if it's because they were doubles partners or if they're doubles partners because they're engaged. Whatever. I don't know. Amber Wolf and Evan Brown are this year's male and female mixed B doubles champions. The runners-up, I believe, are already married. That's Alan and Teresa Rankin of Monticello. Congratulations to them on their runner-up finish.
In mixed 18 and under doubles, the male champion was Jude Stith, and the male runner-up was Lucas Lacey. The female champion was Claire Yates, and there was a tie for second in the females, and that was between Emma Bello and Peyton Woosley.
Okay, so that's this year's 2024 CKTS point standings. Don't forget, November 10th at the Buchanan Indoor Facility.
It's less than
1 to 4 p.m. Away. What's that?
Less than 2 weeks away.
That's right. 1 to 4 p.m. Central Time, slow time. Come and go as you please. Play tennis if you want. Don't play if you don't want. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some snacks. You might get interviewed. You don't have to be interviewed, but we definitely want to take your picture with your award. And it's not just open to award winners. It's anybody who's played in our tournaments this summer is welcome to come and join us that day, Sunday, November 10th. So make plans. Chad, do you have any announcements for Soki to share today?
Yeah, actually, it's not so much Soki. It's a Warren County Parks and Recreation program that we have starting November 18th. It's a Monday night match play program. We had a really successful drop shots league this fall that's still going on. We had over 30 people sign up for that. We're really trying to push social leagues and social play before we get into USTA leagues in the spring. And so we have 6 courts on Monday nights for men and women. They'll alternate their times. The men will play at 6 o'clock one week and women at 7:30, and then vice versa the next week. And so we've got about 12 of 24 spots available still. We're about half full, both for the men and women. It's $30. That includes registration, court time, balls, everything. So it's $30. You can sign up here at the facility, or you can sign up online at the Warren County Parks and Recreation Department website. But all skill levels starts November 18th. It'll be every Monday night through December, January, and the first part of February.
Okay. So just look up Warren County Parks and Recreation for information on that. WCPRD.org, if I'm not mistaken. I should probably know that. There's a flyer on the Soki Tennis website that has the QR code. Go to warrencountyky.gov and then click on Parks and Recreation. That's how you would find the online registration if you wanted to do it that way, or you can call the facility. It's 270-285-5115. To learn more about Soki Tennis or other opportunities that they promote, you can visit SokiTennis.net or their Facebook page at facebook.com/Soki Tennis. And let's see, what else do we have today? I guess that's going to be about it for today. We are already pushing the time here because Chad's got to go and I've got to go. So I guess that's going to serve out this episode of Game Set Match Kentucky. And I want to thank everybody that's watching. And I would apologize for the technical problems we've had, but you didn't see those. That's all edited out. So I apologize to you, Chad, that it took us 15 minutes extra to get started here because of growing pains here at the new studio. So
it's got to feel good to be in the new studio, right?
It does. It's nice. It's nice, and I still I'll put some pictures up when it's finished, but I still have pictures to hang and that kind of thing. So it's coming together though. It's coming together, and I like it. So anyway, you can subscribe to this podcast with any major podcast app on your mobile device, or you can also give us a review and a rating in your podcast app or on your computer. We'd love for you to write us a short review and give us a 5-star rating. You can visit GameSetMatchKY.com for all of our episodes, show notes, links, and more. Please give a like to our Facebook page at Game Set Match Kentucky. That's the first place where you'll see where new episodes come out. We're also on Instagram at Game Set Match KY, and our YouTube channel is youtube.com/@GameSetMatchKY. Chad's on X or Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, at Chad Young Tennis, and I'm on X at Chris Godby. Thanks again to our sponsors, Vision Cabinet Source and Family Medical Centers. And don't forget to do your part to make tennis great again. That's coming up soon.
Yeah, if you're interested, contact Jason or any of the staff at USTA Kentucky and advocate for your community, because that's really what needs to be done. Is people need to care about tennis and facilities in their community and get involved if that means something to them.
Don't hesitate to call or email someone at USTA Kentucky. I mean, that's what they're there for, is to help you and your community grow the game and advocate for tennis and advocate for better facilities and put programs together to get more people playing. So that's what they are there for. You're not going to be bothering them to call them or to reach out and contact them. Please do that. They highly encourage that. Well, there's that sound. It sounds like it's working in the new studio. Hawkeye says we are out. So till next time, I'm Chris Godby with Chad Young, and this has been Game Set Match Kentucky.